And a good Monday morning. It's WKRK in Murphy, North Carolina, 105.5 FM, 1320 AM, cable 25, and country.am. Let me check my list here, okay. He didn't forget about me. He's not mad at me.
I'm here.
He just forgot it was Monday.
Well, that too, and a combination of just running
Being
this morning
busy.
and not paying attention to what time it is. So.
I do that often. If it
Right.
weren't for my phone telling me I need to be somewhere, I would not be anywhere. But
Normally on my phone, for all my stuff I do,
Mhm.
I have reminders on it. The little bells and whistles go off a few minutes beforehand.
But it goes
And
off so often.
It goes off so often, sometimes you kind of forget when it goes off. So.
You came out in good shape because I was this close to calling 911 and filing a missing persons
That would
report.
work too.
Yes.
That would work too. Yeah.
They could have found you real quick.
Right.
Well, I'm glad you're here, and better late than never. And
Well,
we
it's
always
good being here
we
this
always
morning.
appreciate the time that you spend with us and all the information you give.
Right.
And just a valuable service to our community.
Right. And, I am very busy. My phone hardly ever stops ringing and those type of things. But I do try to make myself accessible as I can to try to make sure that people who have concerns and questions and things are able to get up with me. And, people understand. You can reach me through Facebook or through the my cell phone that's I think probably everybody in the county has by now, and through the sheriff's office at different places.
Yeah,
But
I'm going to start posting on my Facebook page your cell phone number.
Might as well. I think everybody's got it anyway.
The
so.
new 911 number is.
When we go out to sheriff's conferences and things, it's funny to hear some of these sheriffs across the state talk about accessibility and things. Some of them have office hours they set up, and some sheriffs are very accessible, some are not. And when we talk about, people texting me on my cell phone and calling me and all those kind of things, some of these sheriffs across the state going, I can't believe you do that. I can't believe your number's out there and accessible for everybody. But I think it's important, that people
Right.
feel that accessibility and know that they can get a hold of me if they need to. A lot of times people will call me for things that I really can't help them with, that's because I'm home and it's going to take a deputy, it's going to take somebody
Right.
to handle that. But it's just that comfort in knowing that I spoke with the sheriff, and it's just that comfort in knowing that, I spoke with the person in charge and they're going to take care of it for me. So that's what we try to do. We try to be accessible for everybody, but that comes at a price too, and it comes with being busy, and it comes with having a lot of things to do. And like the office this morning, we were handling different things and different inter-office stuff, and the scout was over this morning, and we were talking about different cases and different things for the paper. And so sometimes time just gets out of hand with you, and you look up and you're getting a text message from the radio station saying you're supposed to be here. Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
Well, the accessibility, it can get consuming.
It
I
can.
know. It
It can.
really can. I know I have an unlisted private number because,
Right.
I've heard stories about stations. Used to people would call the radio station owner at home and ask, is school closed today?
Right.
And
Yeah.
just those things that instead of just tuning in to find out or whatever, they.
Well, there's some positive things that's happened in my life recently too. One is I want to make sure people understand this also. I've been filling in at Valleytown with the interim pastor duties till we could find another pastor. Last Sunday we elected us a new pastor, so those duties I'm going to be able to get off my shoulders just a little bit and get back to some of my normalcy of life and not have to take on those extra duties too.
Normalcy, I like that.
Yeah, it's I've really enjoyed myself, and of course, anytime I can do ministry work, I enjoy doing that. So it's not a burden for me to do it. But one of the things is just the time, just the time consuming.
There are only so
aspect.
many hours
There
in a
is.
day.
There is, and so we've elected as a pastor, and he's coming. Not this next week, I think, but the week after maybe, or first week in July, I believe is when it is. Wherever that is, I've lost track of time also. But he's coming here in the next couple of weeks, and so that'll be something we can kind of get back and start traveling again and start going to other places. I'm still a member of Valleytown. I plan on being a member of Valleytown. I plan on still doing other ministry work there at Valleytown. But it frees me up to do some more scheduling and some other things. Here in this past week, and actually the past few weeks, with all the graduations going on and the baccalaureates and all the different speeches and functions and different things that's happening, I've been traveling a lot, been going a lot of different places, doing a lot of speeches, doing a lot of graduations, doing a lot of these things. speaking to different churches, and so I really enjoy that. I enjoy going out and being with the public.
How many times has your wife told you to slow down?
A couple.
A couple.
Yeah, a couple.
Uh-huh.
But we are, we're planning, of course, our vacation here in a little bit, and so we're looking forward to just getting away. And of course, I'll always have my cell phone with me wherever I go. You never know when things happen, but we're going to get away for a while and let things kind of calm down and breathe and relax and stuff. So we're really looking forward to that.
It'll be a nice little chance to get away and get caught up and just recharge.
Right.
I think that's my biggest thing when I go to vacation is just I want to just recharge and not worry about everything.
Right.
And then, of course, after I get back from vacation, I have to recover from vacation.
Well, one good thing, that I've found about that balance, I guess that's the word that we use a lot at the sheriff's office.
Balance.
With myself and the chief is balance. You've got to try to do everything you can to do what you can for the public, to make sure the public's taken care of, to make sure things happen there. But you've also got to enforce laws. You've also got to have a personal life. You've got to have these things. And so the word around the office for the last year and a half has been balance, about trying to balance this stuff out to figure out what's appropriate so everybody gets taken care of. And, even like when going on vacation and things, one of the things I found that works very well is now with technology and being able to take a laptop with you and access your email and get your voicemails from work and all those kind of things. You can kind of relax during the day and have your time with your family and all that. And then you can set time to come in the evening for an hour, go through your emails, go through your messages. If there's things you need to address or take care of, you can do that. And then you can close that back out and enjoy your family again, you know. So it's all that perspective. It's all that perspective of balance and making sure you can take care of things. And I think that's one of the things that the public has really liked about the sheriff's office and this administration and what we've tried to do there is that we've not been one-sided on anything. We've tried to put that balance out to the public to where we are getting out, we're being accessible, we're trying to take care of the community that's around us, we're enforcing the laws, we're doing all these things. And even though one aspect of it, somebody may not think that we're doing it to the best of our ability, but it's balanced. And it's balanced across the board to where we can kind of take care of everything that's out there.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, a lot has happened over the weekend. Everybody was glued to the news yesterday with the shooting in Orlando, and we want to send our prayers. There's so many grieving mothers and fathers and brothers and sisters out there. And these things happen in nightclubs, churches, everywhere.
Yeah.
Schools, innocent children get shot. So
I never, and I share this with people quite often. My entire law enforcement career, I never really carried an off-duty weapon. I never really carried a weapon with me to the grocery store, to the movies, or to church, or anything like that. But in the last couple of years, I find myself carrying a weapon with me just about everywhere I go.
Right.
And it's because of one of those things that with all the things that we're seeing that's going on around us, you never know when it's going to happen next or where it's going to happen next. You never know what the mindset of people out there are. With this thing that happened in Orlando, we can blame guns, we can blame those type of things, and talk about gun control and gun restrictions. And
there's always a political debate that comes after any kind of tragedy like this.
But the simple fact of the matter is, it's not a gun problem; it's a heart problem. It's a society problem. And when you think about the weapons that's out there, and you think about the firearms that's available. They've always been available. Since the foundation of the country, people have been armed. Since the foundation of the country, people have had weapons. People have done good things. People have done bad things. And this has been going on since the foundation of our nation. But recently, the things that we see happening, and we see the things that's going on, it's not because there's guns out there. It's not because the guns are available. It's because of the hearts of the people. It's because of the decline in morality, and it's because of the attitude of the people that these things are happening. And so, we could take every gun in America right now, we could ban it, make it illegal, and no guns available. But with that nightclub down there, what would have been the difference of driving up with a truck full of fertilizer and diesel fuel? They could have blew it up, So you can't stop people that wants to hurt other people.
Yeah, they're going to find the ways. I mean, even the felons who are not allowed to have guns, we see in the news that they have a gun and they've
Right.
killed another person.
Right.
And it's really a tragedy. Everyone should have the right to be able to defend themselves.
Right.
And so I'm no way saying that no one should have guns. Is there some people should not have guns, though?
Right.
How do we get to that point to figure out how those people that are not mentally stable or who may be at risk? I read a news story yesterday that his ex-wife said that she feared for her life.
Right.
I mean, this is clearly someone who should not
Right.
even been a part
Well,
of the
that,
community.
that's one of the things that we've seen in society with the permits and the concealed handgun laws and purchase permit laws and all the things that's out there. These are attempts to try to keep the guns out of the hands of people who don't need them,
Right.
that are mentally unstable and things of that nature. But the one thing about the possession of guns, I heard a guy on TV this morning who is a politician, and he was talking about the assault weapons and things of that nature, and he talked about how there was no need for recreational use to have these weapons, and that may be true. However, the Second Amendment was not created for recreational use. That's not the purpose of the Second Amendment. The purpose of the Second Amendment was to be able to defend yourself and to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And so what the Constitution is for is to defend yourself in the event that a foreign country was to invade us, that we would have weapons that we could protect ourselves with. But it was also there so if our own government turned on us and turned against the Constitution, that the people would have the proper weapons and things to defend themselves. And one of the arguments that's been in the Supreme Court for years is whether people should have the same weaponry as the government because of the Second Amendment. And of course, we don't want to. There's got to be some type of restriction because you don't want
Right.
every person in America with their finger on the button of a nuclear weapon.
Exactly.
Of course,
That would be bad.
that would be very bad. But we do, I think, under the Constitution, we do have the right to protect ourselves with the same type of weaponry, the equal amount of weaponry that our government has. So if our government's using automatic weapons and has automatic weapons, then the citizens should be able to have automatic weapons. And I think that's kind of the premise and the background for that. But then you go into this other part of this debate. You hit the nail on the head, is talking about balance. We've talked about balance earlier. Where do you find that balance? Where do you find that balance between people who are unstable that shouldn't have access to those weapons? So where do you go from there? And I think that's where the real discussion needs to lie. I don't think the discussion needs to lie with banning weapons and with keeping people from the ability to have weapons. I think the discussion should lie primarily on where do we draw the line on who can and who can't have weapons? How do we make those determinations? And when we determine someone doesn't need a weapon under the law, then what restrictions do we put in place to keep them from having that weapon? I think that's the discussion we need to have.
It's in my brain, it's kind of similar to having a driver's license. I mean, driving is a privilege. You have to be able to follow the rules of the road because the car is a deadly weapon, just the same. So,
Yeah. But you can't. And one of the things, I know it's hard, and I'm not pretending it's easy and there's an easy answer to this because there isn't. But we also have to, and I know our federal government has almost refused at this point to have this discussion, but we really have to have the discussion of radical Islam and these people who are here to kill us and the people who want to see the destruction of America. We've got to have that discussion on how do we vet these people? How do we put restrictions on these people, because we also have a freedom of religion. So how do we balance that between the freedom of religion and the Second Amendment, and how do we balance that between people's religious freedoms and people who want to hate America and hurt America? So we have to also have those discussions too, and it seems like that the federal government at this point has kind of just steered away from any kind of discussion on Muslims and Islam and all these kind of things as to, let's don't address it, let's don't talk about it because you're racist if you talk about it. But it's a valid conversation that we've got to have. It's a conversation of where do we find these people? How do we realize that they're wanting to kill people? How do we get involved with this religion? And it doesn't necessarily isolated to Islam. I mean, it could be Christianity, it could be anything else. But When it comes to religion and it comes to that radical part of religion and people wanting to take the law into their own hands and kill people, then how do we work that out, balance that out between our freedom of religion and the rights to live safely? So that's a whole discussion that I don't have the answer to.
And I try to figure this out in my head yesterday. I mean, yesterday's Orlando situation was targeting a gay nightclub. In South Carolina, Dylan Roof targeted an African-American church. In Chattanooga, it was a military recruitment center there. And when is it okay to take someone's life when you don't agree with them? I mean, when is it okay to kill?
Well, for that, I don't think that we should ever say it's okay to kill somebody because we don't agree with them. I think we should never fall into that thing under religious freedom that it's okay to deprive someone else of their life because we don't agree with the way they live their life or what they do with their life. There's a lot of things that goes on in America. There's a lot of things that goes on in our community that I don't agree with, that I don't like and I don't agree with. But that doesn't give me the right to go take someone's life because I don't agree with them. So going back to that thing we talked about before is we got to find that balance there. We got to find that balance to where people have a right to, Fred Lunsford used to say when he was pastor up at Vengeance Creek, he used to say that people have a right to be wrong if they want to.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So when you think about this, we've got to find that balance to understand that people have a right to be wrong. They have a right to believe differently. They have a right to behave differently. But that doesn't mean that I have the freedom to take their rights away from them.
Right.
And so, you got to go back to that balance thing and finding there what works and what doesn't. But I think with us focusing in on, with the nation, with their especially with our federal government focusing in on as taking guns as the solution, I don't think that's the solution. I think that we could take every gun in America and people that still wants to kill other people still going to kill other people.
That will still happen.
And so we need to focus on what is the solution. If that's not the solution, then what is the solution? You look at Chicago and Washington, D.C., and a lot of these places where we have the strictest gun bans in the country, where guns are not allowed, period, anywhere in these places, have the highest murder rates of anywhere in the country. And what that does is that bad people are still going to find guns. They're still going to find ways to kill people. But now they found defenseless people. And now they've got people that can't defend themselves. And so I'm just a firm believer in taking people's weapons is not the answer. That's not the answer to it.
And the only thing I could, when I was processing this last night, my just general question, when is it okay to take another human life?
Right.
The only thing I could really think is for self-defense, if you're in immediate danger, you or your family, then I can understand that.
Well, the law allows, North Carolina law allows you to defend yourself or defend someone else with lethal force. And that's the only time it allows it. It doesn't allow you to defend property. It doesn't allow for you to defend someone from stealing your car or stealing gas out of your car or taking your TV out the house. If someone's carrying your TV out the front door, that doesn't give you a right to kill them. What we do in North Carolina, and the law in North Carolina is you can only use lethal, deadly force when your life's in danger or you're defending someone else's life. And so we need to understand
that makes sense.
Yeah. And that's where a lot of people get confused about that. And you get in this debate a lot, and people ask me this question a lot of, you've heard the old adage, if you shoot somebody outside, you need to drag them inside. That doesn't matter. That's not the issue. And even if someone's inside your home, it still doesn't give you the right to kill someone, even if they're inside your home. It depends on whether your life's in danger or not. Whether, if they're standing inside your home with a TV in both hands, your life's not in immediate danger at that point. Someone's broken into your home, someone's in there, they're stealing your property. But if their hands are filled with a 52-inch TV, they're not likely attacking you at that point because their hands are filled with something. If someone's standing in your home and they have a weapon in their hand, that's a different situation,
right?
Because your life's in immediate danger at that point. And so we need to understand that even with concealed carries and all these type of things, that we can't just go Old West and just shoot people whenever we want to shoot people or don't agree with them or don't like what they're doing or they're not behaving correctly. But we can only use lethal force when our life's in danger or someone else's life's in danger.
When someone actually goes and buys a gun, say from a store,
Right.
what is the process that they have to go through to be able to get that into their possession?
Well, they do a federal background check there at the store. The gun owners who sell does a background check themselves to see if there's any federal prohibitors that keeps them from purchasing that weapon. But also, they cannot purchase a handgun from a store without first coming to the sheriff's office and doing a purchase permit. And they do a $5 purchase permit through the sheriff's office. We do further background checks, criminal history checks, and all that. But one thing the state of North Carolina does allow is that the sheriffs of North Carolina can deny that permit, can deny someone from purchasing a firearm based on good moral character. And so if I know Tim Radford, if I know that he's been suspected in dealing drugs, if I know there's been a lot of parties at his house, or police has been called there 10 times this past week.
I've been trying to keep that a secret.
Yeah. but if we know all that's happening, even though
Right.
Tim may not be charged with anything, and even though Tim may not be convicted of anything, but we know that, and the sheriff has personal knowledge of that he doesn't have good moral character. Maybe there's been some assaults. Maybe that he knows that Tim's been threatening people. Maybe he knows these things. If I know all this is going on, I can deny that purchase permit just based on good moral character. Now, conceal's a little bit different. I can't deny a concealed weapon permit on good moral character. It has to be strictly with mental health background checks and with convictions and those type of things.
Well, that was my next question.
Yeah.
Is there any kind of mental health? How do you obtain that information?
There is. We have the authority to go to the clerk's office to search mental health records. That's one of the things we do for criteria to making that judgment on issuing the permits. That consists of they're trying to get everything digitized to make it quicker, but a lot of the older records are still in the books. Mental health records are not public records. Therefore, not anybody can go search involuntary commitments and mental health records and things of that nature. But the law does allow the sheriff's office to do that so that we can make a determination on issuing these permits. So if Tim comes down and he applies for a permit and he wants to carry a concealed weapon, or purchase a weapon, then we go, one of the things we do before we issue that permit is check on that mental health background and go through the clerk's office and pull records and things of that nature to see whether Tim has been committed and kind of involuntary commitment, or whether he has any kind of mental background where he's been sent to Broughton or any other state hospital. And once we determine that Tim's not been to a state hospital, he's not been committed, then we can go ahead and issue that permit. But if we find that he has been committed, or find that he does have a mental background problem there, then that's a prohibitor, and we'll deny that permit at that point.
All right. Sometimes we find out information about people when it's too late. And my question next is, for example, the ex-wife was saying that she feared for her life.
Right.
If there are people out there and they know someone who is just a loaded gun or just waiting to snap and kill
Right.
people, if they know that there's a potential for a dangerous person, is there a way that they can somehow prevent that, provide information to anyone? Is there anything you can do?
That's kind of a tough situation to be in, because still it goes back to the Second Amendment right to being able to bear arms. And so if they come and that person's not committed a crime, or they've not done anything at that point, or they don't meet involuntary commitment status, and they're just a mean person, really, unfortunately, at that point, if there's nothing criminally or nothing mentally to prohibit from possessing that firearm, there's really not a whole lot anybody can do. Then it comes into safety planning. It comes into doing things to try to make it harder for that person to have access to you, to try to prevent that person being in contact with you. Those are times you can look at what they call 50C restraining orders, or you can look at 50B, which is domestic violence orders, and those type of things. So a lot of times, especially if it's a spousal situation or a romantic relationship and family issues and things of that nature, even though they may not have committed a crime, even though they may not have been meet mental involuntary commitment status or anything like that. It might be something we can explore through a domestic violence protection order.
Right.
And when you go through those things, then judges can make orders for that person not to possess firearms or be around guns, and order them to surrender their firearms to the sheriff's office and things of that nature. So,
in Dylan Roof's case, the South Carolina that he went and killed those in the church, the African American church, his friend had apparently heard him discussing plans, or I'm not sure, discussing or joking about it, or if someone hears anything like that,
like that needs to be reported.
Okay.
And it needs to be reported to law enforcement. And what we want people to be sure they understand is that not every time you report something means that we're going to posse up and go put somebody in jail. That's not the purpose of it. But going back and using Tim Radford for the example, if Tim's out here and his life's going bad, he's lost his job, his wife's left him, and all this stuff's going on, and Tim's been threatening to go kill people and been threatening to blow the school up or whatever, that needs to be reported to law enforcement so we can go out and we can have a conversation with Tim and make a determination of what his status is at that point.
Right.
And if we go talk with Tim and we're saying, there's something wrong here, there's something going on, then those may be things that we can look in involuntary commitment orders, look into some of these other things that we can take possession of him and the weapons and make a determination through a psychological status as what to go from there. It may be one of those things we go out and we talk to Tim and we find out, these things have happened, and Tim made this statement, but up until this point, he's not really done anything or facilitated anything or done anything that really meets a involuntary commitment status. But Tim may be somebody that we just want to keep an eye on. Maybe somebody that when officers in this area, they just want to stop and talk with him, make sure things are all right. And so we can also do that and just get involved in the life there and see if we see any changes or anything going on.
So sometimes it just takes getting out and talking to and just using conflict resolution techniques to hopefully prevent something like a shooting from happening.
And nothing's 100% foolproof.
Right.
Typically what we find, in this, there's some exceptions, but typically what we find is most people who harm themselves or harm others, there's very little, if any, real warning that they're going to do it. There may be that erroneous statement, or there may be a change in actions or change in behavior or demeanor. But as far as people standing on the rooftop screaming, "I'm getting ready to kill people," that doesn't happen.
They usually don't give that warning.
They usually don't give that warning. And so it's really pay attention to the little things. Pay attention, especially if people are making threats and they're threatening others, and you start seeing a behavioral change in that person where they're getting isolated, they're getting where they won't communicate with people, they're getting to where they're shutting down, giving stuff away, giving their property away to others, cleaning out bank accounts, stuff like that. Anything you see like that shows that they're making preparations.
They're planning a closure.
They're planning a closure in their life. Then those are things that needs immediate intervention at that point, and try to see what we can do to help at that point.
It seems like we're becoming more accustomed to the normal situation is passing through metal detectors, going, courthouse, airports, these buildings like that. So I'm guessing the venues are going to be adding that kind of security.
It's just a matter of time.
And I really hate the idea of passing through a metal detector to go to church.
Right.
I mean, it's...
Well, one of the things, speaking of church, one of the things we want to talk about too, and I'm going to meet with the church later on this evening about church security, but one of the things that we really do need to be thinking about our churches is that church security aspect. What are we doing in our churches just from a safety aspect? Are people carrying concealed at church? Or are they not? And that's for each individual church to decide through their pastor and their leadership as to what's appropriate and what's not appropriate at their church. But these are all questions that need to be asked. Right. What are you doing during the service hours? Or have you got people who are kind of watching what's going on in the parking lot? Do you have people that's kind of ushers at the doors that kind of intercepts people as they come in and has conversations with them, a welcoming committee? What do you do with the offering when you take it up, and where do you take it to? Do you do it the same way every week? Do you take it the same place every week? What are some of these things you're doing within your church? Just for a complete safety issue. At Valleytown, one of the things we did several months ago or a year ago now is that we developed a safety committee within the church, and we've implemented a lot of these plans within the church. Is what are we going to do if you have a shooter? What are you going to do if the preacher's preaching on Sunday morning and somebody comes through the back door and starts shooting? What's your plan at that point? So we have to have some kind of safety plan and some kind of thought in mind. And that's kind of what we did with DSS out here when we did our drill at DSS and did our active shooter drill there. The whole purpose of that was not that we can make this foolproof and never happen. The purpose of it was for is have a thought process, have a plan. What are you going to do if it happens? Where are you going to go? How are you going to react? How are you going to respond? And so there's nothing wrong with having a plan for things. Now, we all know that those plans may change. Whatever you plan on doing may not work. You may have to have an alternate plan. When you go out to eat at a restaurant, when you sit down, do you look at your exits? Do you look at where people are entering and exiting the restaurant at? Where's the emergency doors? Is there a back door through the kitchen? Be thinking about these things to where if somebody does come in and start shooting, where are you going to go? What are you going to do at that point? And same thing with movie theaters, and we can just list a whole host of different things that places we go with those gatherings of people. But we need to be thinking about being safety-minded and being safety-conscious in this world that we live in.
Yeah, we don't need to live in fear, but we need to live prepared for anything to happen.
That's exactly right. And like I say, going back to the gun issue, you talked about the metal detectors and you talked about all these things. Well, let's say you have metal detectors and you've got metal detectors up and people are coming through that. What's to stop a person from coming in and carrying some type of explosive? What's to stop a person from coming in and carrying porcelain knives, that a metal detector won't pick up? So, it goes back to what I said before, that there's no foolproof thing to do, and there's no way that we can stop this completely from happening. But we've got to have some type of plan, and we've got to look at what the real problem is. And the real problem is not the gun. The real problem is the people who are pointing the guns and firing the guns. That's where the real problem's at.
Absolutely. Okay, I can see that we've run way over time on
of course.
Anything that you want to discuss before we conclude the show?
No, like I say, I just want to thank everybody for your continued support and encouragement, and we're out there doing the best we can, and with the officers that we have. If you have any problems in your neighborhood or anything you'd like to report, especially along these lines that you think we may have something bad happening, please contact the Cherokee County Sheriff's Office and report it, and we'll follow up on it.
837-2589, correct?
That's correct.
All right. Sheriff, thank you very much. We appreciate your time and coming over and joining us on Mondays.
You have a great day.
You too.